Hey guys, Sean from Bantam Overland. Today we have an exciting new video to bring to you on the Alpine SPV-65X-WRA. Now these speakers are completely plug and play for your 2007 to 2018 and a half Jeep JK. So let's go over some of the things you're going to receive when you purchase this kit. You're going to receive two sets of 6.5-inch mid-bass drivers. So that's a set for your lower dash panels by your knees, as well as a set for your soundbar. You're going to receive 4 tweeters, 2 for the top of the dash and 2 for the soundbar. Now, depending on what year Jeep you have, I'll show you exactly how you're going to want to install that. So whether you have a 2007 to 2014 or 2015 to 18 and a half, the install is a little bit different, but everything is included with this speaker bundle. As far as the accessories that are included, again, everything is in the box. So we'll have our tweeter adapters for our 2015 to 18 and a half. We have our crossovers for the tweeters, no matter what year it is. Alpine has even provided polyfill to go into both the enclosure in the front of the dash as well as the soundbar. These 6.5s, Alpine has already included all of the plugs necessary to just completely plug it right in. All factory type connectors on the back of the 6.5s, as well as on your crossovers to go into the dash of your Jeep JK. These Alpine speakers fit perfectly within the Alpine ecosystem, meaning that they can take power from just deck, or if you have or are going to add an aftermarket amplifier. So now that's a little bit about the Alpine speaker bundle. So let's go grab the tools that are going to be necessary for both disassembly and installation, and I'm going to show you those now. We have a screw gun with a Phillips head tip on it, panel popper, socket wrench, a socket extension for our screw gun, a 10mm, 8mm, and a 7mm socket. I have a T15 Torx, as well as a pair of cutters and some wire ties. So your Jeep may be a little different. Ours is a 2007 that we're going to be working on today, so I know we're going to need a T15 to remove the screws from the factory speakers as well as the soundbar. So just always double check your Jeep and what you're going to need before starting any project. So now that we've gone over all the tools necessary to do this job, as well as our speaker bundle, I've shot a video on the disassembly before. We're going to cut to that now. I like to start on the driver's side. First thing I'll do is release the strap holding the door to the inside. You can remove your door if you so choose, or if you already have your doors off, that's great as well. So to do that, open the door and just slide the loop off of the hook. Get our door open so we can have access to our side panels. So for this part of the disassembly, we're going to need our 7, 8, and 10mm socket or wrench. We're going to need our screw gun, and we're going to need our panel removal tool. So I'm going to start by removing the 3 panels so I can see the bolts that we need to remove. So starting with your panel removal tool, just go ahead and stick it back in behind and just gently pop out and remove, put in a safe spot. So once we have that removed, that will give us access to our tweeter plug area, as well as our 2 bolts that hold the knee pod in. Now they're going to be copper in color. They're going to be the only 2 that are that color. So now that we have that off, we can go ahead and remove our shroud underneath our steering wheel by just pulling down and releasing the top clips. Putting that in a safe spot. And on the 07 to 11, you're going to have a sub panel. It's rubber. You can just pull that off. So once those are all off, it'll reveal a couple of 7mm bolts here, 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 and I like to remove the top one here just to give me a little extra pull on the dash once I remove the speaker pod. So now our panels are off. We can grab our screw gun with a socket extension, or you can use a regular socket wrench, and we can start removing some of those 7mm bolts. Go to the lower one, and then the very bottom. And then there's one more down in the lower left-hand corner of the dash. As you see right now, we can't move it, but we'll remove that one. And now the dash is free. So once those are removed, there are two 7mm. They're the copper ones onto the side. We'll remove those two. So now our speaker pod as well as our dash are loose. So now we'll switch up, grab our 10mm socket, remove the two 10mm holding the blocker plate on. And just lift that up and remove. And now there's one more bolt we need to remove. Switch out to our 8mm. And now that one is a little hard to see below the sub panel right here. Now we got all the bolts that we need to remove out to remove our speaker pod. So next we'll gently pull out on the front of the dash, and you will wiggle the speaker pod out. Now I like to roll it over so I can unplug it. So there's a speaker plug that is attached to the back of the pod itself. You'll just reach in, press down, and remove the speaker, and then remove the entire assembly all at once. I like to set them on a table to remove the factory speakers out, and then to put our new aftermarket speakers in. Now it's time to move on to our tweeter. So to remove the tweeter, you're going to want to use your panel removal tool. It's pretty simple. It will just pop out. You just got to take care that you're not scratching anything. Slowly insert your removal tool and just give it a little bit of a twist. That will actually pop the tweeter out of the housing. And then there's one single plug. You'll just unplug it, leave it like such, and then you'll just feed the wiring back down in to get it out of the way, and just slide it in so it's into our side panel here. So now we're done with the driver's side. We can go ahead, move on to the passenger side, and it's basically the exact same process, but I'll show you how to do it. So now on the passenger side, we need to remove the glove box. Easiest way to do that, drop it down, push in on either side, and then just remove. So you'll notice that there's a couple of clips to hold it in, and that's what allows it to rotate. You're just popping that right off. Now once the glove box is out, you'll have that lower sub panel just as you did on the driver's side. Just pull that off, set that to the side, or put it down low, and then we'll remove our side panel starting at the top, and then just slowly working our way down and removing that as well. Same brass or copper colored screws holding in the speaker pod. On this one, we're only going to have 4 7mm bolts holding this in, as well as our 7mm at the very bottom corner and our 8mm holding the other side of the pod in. So let's get the 7 mils removed. They are here, 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 and here. So let's get those 7 mils removed. So now we have those 4 7mm removed. You can actually reach in and go ahead and unplug the factory speaker connector from the speaker pod. Press in on the back side of the plug and slide out. Now we can go ahead and remove the 2 7mm from the side. So you can see that has released our speaker pod for the most part. There's the 1 7mm at the bottom corner of the dash, because right now our dash does not move. Remove that bolt, and now we have some movement in our dash. So we have one more bolt to remove. That's the 8mm, and that is right here. Go ahead and remove that. And then you can grab your speaker pod and pull it out through the glove box. So now we can start removing the tweeter exactly the same as on the driver's side. Take your panel removal tool, gently stick it in and twist, and that will release the clips. Once you have the tweeter out, just unplug it, remove it. Now you're going to want to, again, fish the wire back down through into the cavity here on the side, and then you're done with your tweeter. Moving on to the rear soundbar, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can do it inside the vehicle and just remove the speakers directly from. I'm going to actually remove the soundbar so we can show you a step-by-step on the table. So to remove the soundbar, you're going to have 3 10mm bolts on either side of the soundbar. Now the passenger side is where your speaker harness plug is going to be plugged in. So I'm going to start on the passenger side. I'm going to remove 2 of the 3 bolts, leaving 1 in just so it doesn't fall down when I go over and remove the other 3 bolts on the driver's side. So let's start doing that now. This one I'm just going to loosen, but not remove completely. And we'll go ahead and remove this one completely. So now we'll come over to the driver's side and go ahead and remove those 3. Now you want to make sure that you hold on to your soundbar when you remove the 3rd bolt on the driver's side. So that way it doesn't fall and potentially damage anything. So just let it down gently. So if you have a second person, they can always hold the other side up while you remove both the 3rd bolt and unplug the harness. I'm only one person, so this is how I have to do it. So I'll go ahead and remove, holding onto the soundbar, and remove the final bolt. And you'll notice the harness plugged in right up top. To remove the speaker plug, press in on the tab and slide out. And now you can remove the entire soundbar from the vehicle and take it to your workbench. Now that everything's on our workbench, we can go ahead and show you the removal of the factory speakers and the installation of the new aftermarket speakers. So let's begin the disassembly with our rear soundbar. So on this one, we'll remove 6 T15 screws from the soundbar to remove the factory speaker grills. So we can begin doing that now. Now you can use handheld T15 or one on a screwdriver, totally up to you. I'm going to use a screw gun. So remove that. Now you'll notice that that is actually how the speaker is held in, is those 3 T15 screws. Once the speaker's out, just depress the plug on the speaker and remove it. We'll do the same thing to the other side. Move the grill, remove the speaker. Now take note, the longer tab is facing inside, so we'll want to remember that for when we put in our speaker adapters. Same, press in and unplug. Again, it's 3 T20 Torx bolts to remove those out of there. So let's get those out. Once those three are out, you can remove. Now this might have a little bit of sticky on there. There's a rubber gasket that over time will melt to the plastic. And then same as in the soundbar, push in and remove. Now we'll do our other pod. All three of those are removed. Push in and remove. So now the disassembly is all done, we can get into the installation of our speakers in both our soundbar and our pods. But I wanted to go over a couple of things on the differences between the years on the Jeep JK. So 2007 to 2018 and a half, we will always use our 6.5s just as they are. And again, they will be fully plug and play. Now, on 2007 to 2014, we will actually use this little wire here for the soundbar, and that is because we'll be using a coaxially mounted tweeter. So we'll use both our grill and our tweeter right in here. And then I'm going to show you how to do that in its entirety. On the 2015 to 2018, we're actually going to use this adapter that comes in the kit. Now this will replace the 2 3/4 inch speaker that is both in the top of the dash as well as in the soundbar. Now I'm not going to physically be able to show you how to install that, but I'll show you kind of while I'm doing it in our 2007. So, you know, this will just drop right in and lock in, and it has the mounts that are exactly the same as the factory speaker. As far as the rest of the accessories we're going to be using today, we have our tweeter crossover. Now this has 2 different factory style plugs already on it. So 2007 to 2014, we will use our smaller black plug, and 2015 to 2018 and a half, we will use the larger white one. Again, I'll go over all that during the installation. Now that we've done a parts breakdown on the speaker bundle, let's actually go ahead and build the soundbar speakers so we can install them. So we will not be using either of the adapters today for this install. We're going to go ahead, we need our tweeter as well as our grill. So let's go ahead, we're going to drop our tweeter down in to the hole, line it up. Now there'll be ridges on 3 spots that will allow it to just snap right in. So grab it, snap it in all the way so it sits nice and flush. So then you'll notice on the back of the grill, there is one spot that is open on the corner here. We're going to go ahead and take our tweeter wire, kind of get that run through there like that. Now it comes with a little plastic adapter that's actually going to help hold that tweeter wire in. So you just got to kind of get it lined up, get it snapped in. It should look just like that. So now with our tweeter mounted and our wire run, we can go ahead and grab our 6.5. Now you'll notice again, there's a little notch on one side that wire is going to drop down through. So go ahead and just drop that grill on there, and you're going to snap it into place. So we'll snap into place, make sure it doesn't fall off. So now moving to the actual speaker itself, we will go ahead and grab our crossover. So there are a couple of different selections when you're plugging in the crossover. You have your plus 3 dB, you have your flat, and you have your ground. Now, depending on your listening style, it's completely up to you which one of these two you want to plug in. I know eventually I'm going to be adding an amplifier here, so I'm just going to go right to the 0 dB. So we'll go ahead, grab our matching plug. You can only plug it in one way. They are male and female differences. So we'll get that plugged in, and before we install it, we'll make sure we grab some zip ties to keep that nice and neat. And then from here, we'll go ahead and just plug the two black plugs in together. So now that that's plugged in, that will complete this speaker. So when we plug our factory speaker plug into our 6.5, it will give us output to our tweeter, so we have like a true coaxial speaker. So now that that's done, we can go ahead and move to the other 6.5. So again, I'm not going to really explain it again, we'll just kind of go through it. So stick our tweeter through, get that pressed in. Get our tweeter wire run out. Grab our little bridge. And get our grill mounted. Now that we know our grill is on, just double check, give a little pull, flip it over. We're going to go ahead and wire up our crossover. So again, I'm going to use the 0 dB. It's just a personal opinion. You can use whatever you would like. Let's get our tweeter plugged in and our ground side plugged in. So both of those are plugged in, and now our tweeter plug. So now everything's plugged in, we're good to go there. So now we can go ahead and grab our factory soundbar. So we have our soundbar. Again, we're not going to be using our factory grills, so you're going to want to remove the factory screws out of there. Now some of these will be T15 Torx, some may be Phillips head, just depends on your model year. Now this portion of the install is only going to be relevant for the 2007 to the 2014. 2015 up, you'll have a little bit bigger of an area. You'll actually have two speakers that you'll remove. So a 6.5 and a 2 3/4 to 3 inch speaker. Both of those will come out. Again, you'll use your adapter for your tweeter, but that will all plug in the exact same way, only instead of the black plug, you'll use the white plug. And again, that's 15 to 18.5 JK. So let's move on with our 2007 to 2014. Alpine has provided some polyfill to stick into our soundbar. So we're gonna go ahead, start with that. So they give you 2 sheets. Go ahead and get one stuck in one side And we'll get the other stuck in this side. There we go. So the reason Alpine provides the polyfill is it actually kind of expands the size of the chamber and makes the speaker think it's sitting in a little bit bigger of a chamber. So it may also help with some rattling and stuff like that of, you know, the factory wires that are kind of in there and bouncing around. So now we have our soundbar prepped. We have our polyfill in. We have both of our factory speaker adapters out and ready. So let's go ahead, grab one of our speakers, grab a wire tie just to kind of clean all this stuff up. So we'll grab two. We'll just quickly zip tie this other adapter there. And then we'll zip tie this one here. So just make it neat. You can use electrical tape if you so choose. Doesn't really matter. Okay, cut off any of the extra. So now as far as installing the speaker, the plug is right here. We're gonna go ahead and just plug it directly in to the speaker. So now that is plugged in. Grab your crossover, drop that down, making sure everything sits nice and neat in there. And then we can just get our speakers lined up. Actually, let's turn it so our Alpine is facing out. Get it nice and set. Then we can go ahead and grab our screws, get those started. Now this one's almost done. We'll go ahead, move over to the other side. Exact same thing. Grab our wire ties, get them all wire tied in. So we'll get this wire tied. And we'll get this wire tied. Cut any of the excess off. And then we can go ahead, get our speaker plugged in, get our crossover set in, and then we're just going to go ahead and do the speaker the exact same way. Make sure nothing's in the way. There we go. So now both speakers, the Alpine logo is pointing out. If you want it a different way, you can adjust the tweeter and move it around. Totally up to you. Let's go ahead and get our factory screws started. So from here you can screw this down. Again, mine is a T15. You may have Phillips head screws. Either way, you just want to make sure they're screwed down. So that's done. Okay, so now my Alpine coaxials are installed on my soundbar. I'm done with it. Next thing we'll do with this is we'll get this installed back into the Jeep. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the speaker pods in the lower portion of the front of the dash. So let's get to that now. So in all cases, 2007 to 18.5, we will actually not use our grills. So we're going to set those to the side. So now we have just the raw speaker. We can grab one of our enclosures, make sure our speaker plug is out, grab that polyfill that comes inside the box. And just like the soundbar, we're going to get that in there. So just get it in as best as possible. Make it fit. So in this case, again, on all Jeeps, we will not use the little extension. We will just simply plug directly in, making sure it clicks. Now, if you so choose, I'm going to wire tie that tweeter wire to my factory wiring. You can use tape, however you would like to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a wire tie. And this is more just to make sure that this plug doesn't bounce off plastic and create a buzz or a noise. So we'll go ahead and trim off the excess and go ahead and drop our speaker in. Now it'll fit directly where the factory one goes inside the little tabs. So from there, go ahead, grab your factory screws, get those started. So now we have it started. I'm actually going to go ahead and just get that screwed in now. So gently get that screwed in. Okay, so that's one done. So let's go ahead and move over to the other side. Grab that. Get the polyfill in. So go ahead and get our speaker plugged in. And we'll go ahead and just wire tie this cable here. Get the excess removed. And go ahead and drop our speaker in. And grab our screws. So let's get that screwed down. So now moving on to the tweeters, because we're not using the grills, we will not use the little protective covers. So in 2007 to 2014 on the dash, they have what they call the tombstone. So it's that little pod that sticks up. So these tweeters will fit directly and snap into those factory tombstones. I'll show you how to install those on our 2007. If you have a 2015 to 18.5, just like the soundbar, we're gonna use our adapter plates. Go ahead and drop our tweeter in, lock them in, and then they will go on top of the dash flat, and you'll have your crossover plugged in however you would like. And again, you will use the white plug. Since ours is a 2007, we're going to go ahead and set these aside. We're going to have our tweeters out and ready for when we install on each of the fronts. So now that we've prepped all our speakers, let's get it installed in our Jeep. So let's begin our reinstallation process with the rear soundbar. Now this is an easier process to do with two people. Unfortunately, it's just myself, so I'll show you how to do it with one. So we want to make sure we start on the passenger side. That's where our factory harness is going to be. So we're going to go ahead and slide our soundbar in, kind of lift it up, get it plugged in. So now we're plugged in. So then from there, we're going to want to grab our 10mm bolts that we removed originally. Kind of get them started in the hole, and then lift up the soundbar and get that first bolt started. So we'll get the first bolt started, Get our second one started. Okay, now we've got our 2 bolts started. Go ahead and get the 3rd bolt started in the middle. So now we have these 3 bolts started on the passenger side. We can move over to the driver's side, get those 3 in, and then we can start bolting it up into the Jeep. So now over on the driver's side, we have the 3 bolts to put back in this side. So we're going to go ahead and grab our bolts, come up through, get each one of these started. So now those are started, and then we'll put our one up in here. So now that all of our bolts are started, we can go ahead and grab our 10mm, whether it's on an impact gun or a socket wrench, go ahead and get those all tightened up. And then move back over to the passenger side and go ahead and get those all tightened up. So now that that's all completely reinstalled as well as plugged in, we're going to go ahead, move to the driver's front, get our lower knee panel speaker installed, as well as our tweeter and our crossover. So let's begin with the tweeter part of the installation of the front driver's side. So again, I want to just go over the differences in model years. So in 2015 to 18.5, there'll be a speaker grill on top of the dash, which you will already have removed, and you will already have placed your tweeter in that adapter. That will just drop right in. You'll plug it in to your crossover and then screw it back on. So for 2007 to 2014, we're going to go ahead and fish our speaker wires down through. There's a small hole that you'll pull it down through. You'll just line the Alpine logo at the bottom and then push it directly in. That will make sure that that logo is nice and flat and in there. So next thing we're going to want to do is, again, we need to plug in our crossover. So you'll choose between your plus 3 dB, your flat, and then we'll have our ground. So again, I'm going to go with flat, get that plugged in. And we'll go ahead and plug our ground side in. Okay. Now we have our factory connector here, which matches our black one here. Go ahead and get those plugged in. There we go. So then next, I'm going to hop out, and we're going to just kind of get it nice and wire tied so it doesn't rattle inside of our dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead, grab a wire tie. Wire tie that, just to kind of keep everything together. We're going to go ahead and grab another wire tie and just kind of use, I'm going to use this hole here in the factory sub dash just to kind of keep everything together and secured. So just get it over. There you go. Now it's secured to the dash. Cut the excess off. So now that we're done installing the tweeter, we can move to our lower driver's dash pod, get that all installed, and get that bolted back into the dash. So now it's time to get our lower dash pod installed. So just like with disassembly, we're going to have to pull out gently on our dash plastic, we're going to make sure we have our factory speaker plug accessible to plug it directly in. So let's grab our pod. Now we want to make sure our pod has the 2 screw holes on the outside towards the driver's side and our mount towards the center of the vehicle. So first step, we're going to go ahead, get it plugged in. So we'll get it plugged in and pull out gently on the dash and feed the pod in and rotate it up. Now we want to make sure that we get it in there and get our holes lined up here. So first thing we're going to do, it's in. We're going to grab our 2 brass or copper colored 7mm bolts. Just get those started in there, just like that. Then we can go ahead and grab our impact gun or our socket and just go ahead and get those tightened up. Okay, so now our speaker pod's not going to fall out, it's not going to go anywhere. We can kind of get our plastic bent back over and in place. So next we can go ahead and grab our bolt from the bottom. That's the 8mm. So that's going to be the black one here, and that will kind of go up. It's going to be very hard to see on camera, but just know it's exactly at the same spot where you removed it from. So let's go ahead and switch over to our 8mm. And we'll get that in there. So go ahead, get that 8mm secured. Double check, make sure our pod is nice and tight. So we're good there. So now that we have our lower dash pod installed, we can go ahead and reassemble the rest of the dash. So I'm going to start with putting our metal plate on and then attaching the 2 10mm bolts there. So we can go ahead and put them in. So from there, we're going to switch out and move over to our 7mm and then get the rest of the 7mm in. We'll have 2 here and then 2 on the lower and then 1 in the bottom corner here. So let's get those all in. And we'll have 1 more up top here. And then 1 down in this corner that I've already started. So we can grab that. So now we can go ahead and put on our panels. We'll start with our lower panel here. That will just slide in. There we go. Now get our beauty panel in, making sure we hook that around and just press up, press in. And last but not least, we'll go ahead and get our side panel on here. I've always found the easiest way is kind of go in first and then back behind and then just tap it in, making sure it locks on. So now our driver side is completely done. Tweeter, mid-bass driver, we can go ahead, move to the passenger side, do the exact same thing, and complete our installation. So we're gonna go ahead, start with the tweeter, just like we did on the driver side. The installation process is exactly the same. So we're gonna go ahead, grab our tweeter, just gently feed the wires into the cavity here, and then grab them as they come out. So there we go. So we're going to again line up our tweeter with the Alpine logo flat and just push directly in, making sure we hear that click. It's nice and flush there. We have our speaker wires out. So again, with the crossover, I'm going to go ahead and not use the red, use both blacks. So start with that. Get each plug in. Okay. So just like that. Again, we have our factory plug. Just match it up. Get it all plugged in. So next we're just going to do a little bit of cleanup. We'll grab some wire ties or some electrical tape. Go ahead and get that cleaned up. End off there. All right, so on this side, I'll go ahead and tuck it back in and up behind the dash. Just like that, because on this side, that hole is blocked by the air vent. So now we have our tweeter installed. We can go ahead and grab our lower dash pod. We're gonna go ahead, grab it, make sure that our holes are facing out. Gonna go ahead, get it plugged in. Now you can do that after the pod's installed if you so choose. Totally up to you. And go ahead and get this dash slightly pulled out. And then just be careful with the actual speaker itself that we don't hit anything. There we go. Now we're in. We're going to go ahead and grab those two brass screws, get them lined up, get them started by hand. Let's go ahead and get those two screwed in. So now we're in. Now if you didn't plug your factory speaker connector in prior to putting it in, go ahead and plug it in now. So make sure that's plugged in. It is perfect. Next we want to grab our 8mm bolt that goes in from the bottom and holds the inside of the pod tight to the dash. So we'll go ahead and switch out to our 8mm and go ahead and get that one in and secured. All right, let's go ahead and get that bolted in. Double check. All right, our pod's nice and secure. So now we can go ahead and replace the 7mm bolts that hold our dash together. All right, let's go ahead and get our 7mm bolts back in. And the last one here. So now all our bolts are back in. We can go ahead and put our lower dash on and then put our glove box in. Start with our lower dash, just get it pushed in. There we go. Go ahead and grab our glove box, making sure that anything that was in there goes back in. So we want to make sure we hook it just like the front driver's dash. Push in, making sure it stops. Close it. And then we have one panel left to do, and that's our side panel. Go ahead and grab that. Get it in behind there. There we go. And just push it together. So one last thing we need to do before we've called this 100% complete. Need to turn on the Jeep, test it out, make sure all of our speakers work, make sure fade and balance and everything works perfectly. So as a recap, this Jeep Factory speakers in the front, factory speakers in the soundbar. It was a factory amplified system, or it still is a factory amplified system, so we have the factory subwoofer still playing. So let's go ahead, turn the Jeep on, see what she sounds like. So currently installed in the vehicle, we have our Alpine ILX F511 in the dash. First thing I want to do, put some music on. I'm going to go in and check my fade and balance, make sure everything is good there. Double check my crossover settings, and then turn it up and listen to it. So let's turn it up a little bit, check our fade and balance, and go from there. So front left is playing. Now I moved over to the front right. Now the rear right. And the rear left. So I'm good there. So let's just go in and double check all the crossover settings. So right now, front is at 80 Hertz. Front low pass is at 20,000 kilohertz. Rear is at 80 Hertz. Rear low pass is at 20,000. And the subwoofer, even though it's not installed yet, it's set at 80. So let's get out of there. And we'll go back into CarPlay. Let's turn it up, take a listen, see if there's a difference. It's a huge difference in sound between the factory and the aftermarket Alpine system. Sounds way better. Once the top is down in this Jeep, I think he'll actually be able to hear his music as he's driving down the road. With such a simple upgrade, easy to do, all completely 100% plug and play, this Alpine system is a no-brainer. Alpine has done an absolutely fantastic job with creating speaker packages for our Jeep Wranglers. So if you have any questions or are looking to purchase any of our Alpine speaker bundles, please visit us at bantamoverland.com. And as always, guys, have a blast out there.